He's so good, Dad. I think maybe
Can
we
I
should
talk
go.
to you for a second?
Dude, you can't. Oh, Jesus.
Ready,
There's
go.
no response here.
I don't know.
What did she take?
I don't know.
The story kicks off in 2007 with a 23-year-old named Cherry pulling up in his truck, gearing up to rob a bank. As we dig into his past, we find out that Cherry's not in a great place mentally. He's battling depression and feels like life's just one big dead end. Turns out he's no stranger to robbery. He's done it before and knows exactly how to pull it off. But when he steps into the bank, fires a warning shot to scare everyone, and locks eyes with the teller, something clicks. A wave of sadness crashes over him, dragging him back to 2002. Flashback to Cherry's college days in 2002, where he's just a regular university kid. He ends up falling head over heels for one of his classmates, Emily. She likes him too, but Cherry drops the bomb. He already has a girlfriend, Madison, who's been his high school sweetheart. On weekends, he drives to visit Madison, but their relationship starts to go downhill. Cherry's not thrilled about how Madison seems to enjoy being the center of attention at parties, especially with other guys. Meanwhile, Cherry gets a job at a restaurant, but things don't go so well there either. Turns out, making dough isn't his thing, and he gets fired after just 2 weeks. Frustrated, he heads over to his best friend James Lightfoot's place. James has had a tough life. He lost his parents at a young age and mostly fends for himself. The two of them decide to swing by the bank to sort out an issue with Cherry's account. They're joined by their buddy Roy and Roy's cousin Joe, who's planning to enlist in the Marines. James isn't thrilled about the idea and tries to talk Roy out of letting Joe sign up. But their plan to hit the bank gets thrown off track when James's car suddenly catches fire, leaving them with no ride and Cherry's bank problem still unresolved. They end up walking back to James's house. The next day, Cherry meets a group of kids looking for Xanax, something he's been using to cope with panic attacks. They invite him to a party, and after popping a few pills, he decides to join them. At the party, Cherry's surprised to run into Emily. They hit it off, share some laughs, and end up having a passionate moment together. That night feels like a turning point for Cherry. Emily's kindness and understanding make him feel like maybe life isn't so bad after all. But Emily's got her own demons. Her parents were abusive, and she's convinced love isn't real. She decides to break things off with Cherry and move to Montreal to study. Cherry begs her to stay, but she leaves anyway, leaving him heartbroken. Lost and searching for direction, Cherry makes a drastic decision. He enlists in the army as a medic. At first, his officers don't take him seriously, but Cherry proves he's got what it takes. He's sworn in for 2 years, hoping the army will give his life some meaning and help him escape his sadness. Back home, Cherry's friends are busy trying to convince Joe not to enlist, worried he'll face the same struggles James's brother did in the military. But they have no idea Cherry has also signed up. Before shipping out, Cherry gets a call from Emily. She wants to meet up one last time, so he arranges to see her at the restaurant where he works. But when Emily shows up with her friend Benji, it throws Cherry off completely. Hurt and upset, he turns to the restaurant owner for some support and ends up befriending a guest named Tommy, who later gives him a ride home. To Cherry's surprise, Emily is waiting for him at his house. She apologizes for bringing Benji and confesses that she's changed her mind. She's not going to Montreal because she's realized she loves him. Cherry, however, drops his own bombshell. He's joined the army. They decide to follow their separate paths, but get married before he heads out in 2003. During basic training, Cherry bonds with a fellow recruit named Jimenez. The training is brutal, and Cherry witnesses some dark moments, including another soldier attempting suicide. Despite the hardships, he and Jimenez complete their medical training and are deployed to Iraq. In Iraq, Cherry is thrown into the chaos of war. He faces his fears head-on with Jimenez's encouragement and dedicates himself to treating injured soldiers. The reality of war hits hard, especially when they lose 8 comrades in a short time. Stationed in the dangerous triangle of death, Cherry and his unit face constant threats, but push through, patrolling tirelessly and tending to wounded locals at night. One day, Cherry senses trouble with a particular route and warns a sergeant, but his concerns are brushed aside. His fears come true when their vehicle gets stuck in quicksand, leaving them exposed. Jimenez and 3 others head out to retrieve a tow cable, but disaster strikes when an IED explodes, engulfing their vehicle in flames. Cherry rushes to the scene, only to find his friend and the others severely injured. Tragically, he has to collect Jimenez's remains, a moment that leaves him emotionally shattered. The loneliness and trauma weigh heavily on Cherry, and he starts reaching out to Emily and another friend, Vince, to help process his feelings. After completing his 2-year stint in 2005, Cherry comes back home. He's greeted as a hero and even awarded the Medal of Valor for his service. But inside, he feels empty. Emily is there for his homecoming, and reuniting with her gives Cherry a sense of peace. She takes him to a house she's built, and Cherry starts piecing his life back together. He begins taking night classes at the school where Emily works, while also holding down a job during the day, hoping to rebuild his future one step at a time. Cherry's life takes a turn for the worse as his haunting war memories begin to mess with his mind. He's hit hard by PTSD and anxiety, keeping him up at night. To deal with the panic attacks, he starts popping Xanax. Emily, frustrated by his unpredictable behavior, starts taking Xanax too, trying to cope with her own stress. Meanwhile, his buddy James falls deep into addiction and ends up getting caught during a failed robbery. Cherry helps bail him out, and the two reconnect, spending more time together. But Cherry's growing neglect and Emily's struggles push him to seek medical help. His doctor prescribes OxyContin, but instead of helping, it only makes things worse when he starts abusing it. Emily, fed up with everything, starts using Cherry's meds, and the two spiral out of control. They cling to memories of better days, but their substance abuse pulls them further into the void. Before long, they're hooked on OxyContin and other drugs, and their finances go completely downhill. Out of desperation, Cherry turns to a shady friend nicknamed Pills and Coke, who hands him the job of watching over a safe. But things go south when Cherry, Emily, and James crack open the safe, hoping for cash, only to find it packed with drugs. They indulge in the stash, but their paranoia gets the better of them when they mistake a visitor for the cops. Panicking, they destroy the remaining drugs, only to realize the visitor is Pills and Coke, who's now furious at the mess they've made. Pills and Coke warns Cherry that his boss, Black, won't take kindly to the loss. Feeling cornered, Cherry decides the only way out is to rob a bank to pay off the debt. Using a handwritten note, he intimidates a teller into handing over cash. He keeps a small cut for himself, and they celebrate their success, but their troubles are far from over. Soon after, Joe warns Cherry that the police are sniffing around, forcing him to keep a low profile. He blows through the stolen money on drugs, eventually running out. With no other option, he starts robbing more banks, sticking to the same simple plan to get quick cash and keep feeding their addiction. Despite the heists, Cherry still owes Pills and Coke for their drug supply. Desperate, he partners up with Pills and Coke for a bank robbery. But when Cherry gets home, Emily lashes out, furious about not having any drugs left. After giving her a hit, Cherry is horrified when she overdoses and has to rush her to the hospital. The doctor warns that she barely survived. When Emily's parents arrive, her mother blames Cherry for the situation and demands he leave her alone. Heartbroken, Cherry walks away, but Emily later escapes rehab and shows up at his place. No matter how much Cherry insists she go back, she refuses to leave. Back home together, their destructive habits pick up where they left off. When Cherry runs into more money problems, he ropes Pills and Coke and James into pulling off multiple bank heists in one go. However, things go sideways when James panics during a robbery and takes off, leaving Cherry and Pills and Coke to fend for themselves. Tensions run high, and when Pills and Coke starts acting erratically, Cherry steps in to take control. Pills and Coke, furious at being sidelined, storms out, abandoning Cherry mid-heist. Cherry finds himself stuck inside the bank as the gates lock down, realizing just how far he's fallen. Barely escaping in a getaway car, he's overcome with fear that one of his partners might rat him out if they're caught. Determined to tie up loose ends, Cherry convinces James to help him track down Pills and Coke. But when they find him, it's clear things have taken a turn for the worse. Pills and Coke has been shot and is bleeding out. Cherry urges James to get help, but they both know doing so would expose them to the authorities. With no other choice, they leave their injured accomplice behind. The next day, Cherry heads home with Emily and their dog, only to come face to face with Black, the menacing drug boss. Black demands the money he's owed and threatens Emily's life if Cherry doesn't pay up. Feeling trapped, Cherry agrees to one final robbery to settle the score. Before heading out, he shares an emotional goodbye with Emily, fully aware of the danger he's about to face. This brings us back to the scene where it all started, the bank robbery. Cherry gives Black directions for the getaway car and heads inside to carry out the heist. He demands cash from the teller and even tells her to trigger the alarm as he makes his exit. Instead of running, Cherry hands the stolen money to Black and sets off on a reckless spree, firing a gun into the air and walking down the middle of the street to attract attention. Sitting by the roadside, he takes one last hit and waits for the inevitable. The police finally arrive, arresting Cherry and putting an end to his chaotic journey. Behind bars, he begins the long, painful road to recovery. Over the years, he confronts his addiction and starts to come to terms with his traumatic past. After serving 14 years, he's released in 2021, stepping into freedom with a sense of hope. Waiting for him at the prison gates is Emily, standing by his side with unwavering love and support. And that's the story of Cherry, a roller coaster of love, loss, and redemption. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more videos like this.